Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. So as is good tradition, we're starting a couple of minutes late because I had to make sure that everything is set up correctly. Not sure if that is the case, but we'll find out soon. But I think we're good to go. So today, my goal is to work on making Sophia more compatible with iOS 26, but also backwards compatible. Because the thing is, not everybody will be able to use iOS 26 right from day one. Lots of people might still have older phones, and some people might have newer phones but not upgrade to iOS 26. So it's important to make sure our apps work on new platforms and the slightly older ones as well. And there are a couple of ways how we can support this. And I've looked into some of them, and the interesting thing is that once it gets to UI, things become slightly more complicated because you want to make sure that things look one way on a new platform, but don't break on the old platform. So you have to be careful in terms of what you do, and also you need to verify on both platforms. So let's give this a try. And I think, so what we're going to look into today is a couple of techniques, some of which might work and some of which might not work well. But we'll find out together, and along the way we will learn something about hashtag available, and about something called the backport pattern. So also, if you're on the stream, feel free to use the emojis. Also, feel free to say hi, tell me where you're dialing in from, and if you want, tell me what's your beverage of choice for today. I didn't have time to brew myself a fresh cup of tea, so water it is, and to make sure I keep hydrated. Okay, let's switch to the coding view. And here we are. So this is the current version of the application, and if we take a look how it looks like, you will realize, wow, this is a bit of a mess. So let me move this to the side. So there's lots of things that are glassified. Let's pull this one up, for example. So we've got the chat view that we worked on last time. So this is properly classified. But there are some things that are kind of half classified. So for example, you will see that we've got this filter button down here, which works. But if I click on that, you will see that there is this other button here, which looks really weird. And this is something that we'll have to fix. Those buttons here, they probably should look different as well, because on iOS 26, they should be icons and not text. So this is something that we need to fix as well. And then what else? Oh yeah, so for example, if you will notice that tapping on this will slide in the sheet from the bottom, but there is no proper animation. Well, there is an animation, but let's turn on slow animations here. You'll see that the sheet just comes out of the bottom edge of the phone, but what really should happen is that it morphs out of the button. So where should we start? So maybe the first thing is let's let me also show you how the app looks like on the previous version of the simulator. So here, let's do it this way. So here's the same application. I'm just not signed in, so that's why the data looks different. And you can see why on the version running on the iOS 26 simulator, the button looks different because, or there is this funny looking button, because we have this area in the status bar down here, which shows the status text. And once I enable the filter, this will actually make sense down here, right? So it says, well, filter by unread, and then I can turn this on and off, and it will show a different text here. So that looks a lot better. And the animations make kind of sense, because why don't we have slow animations here as well? Because that is the default animation on an iOS 18 and below simulator or operating system. Okay, good. So I think what we should first do is kind of like clean this up a little bit. And what I want to do, and I'll go back to a video that we've watched a bunch of times. So iOS 26, Liquid, Glass, SwiftUI. So this video here, we've referred to it a bunch of times, and let me find the place that I'm looking for. Let me turn off the sound because that is probably more distracting. Yeah, I think it's here. So what I'm looking for is the filter button. It should show up down here in a moment. Here we go. So you can see that the filter button has those two elements smushed together. Yeah, no, they explain how it works. So I want to try to implement this. So let's go into our code. And then I hope this is large enough, it looks good. And we can probably resize the window like that. You can still see, and we can close the chat. You can still feel free to text me, and I will see the chat on my window here. Okay, so let's go into our main UI, and that is probably, so let's go here. We want to go to the, and here we have slow animation still. So we want to go to the artifact list screen. So this screen here. And you will see that it is a pretty, let's go to the bottom. It's a pretty long view, so almost 400 lines of code. And what I did is I thought I was being smart. So if you look at how I organized my code, I used the mark attribute here to divide my code into logical sections. So for example, you can see that for adding stuff, I used this code structure here. So I've got a toolbar, and we've got the toolbar item in here, and then there's the sheet. So you have seen that there is more than just one toolbar button, right? So here we've got the add button. Let me move this over here. Oh, sorry, it needs to go here. We've got the add button, but we've also got the filter button, and we've got the semantic QA button. So if I scroll down, you can see that we've got the filtering down here, and you can also see that we've got those two toolbar items here. One button that has the filter icon, and the other button isn't a button, it's a VStack, and it shows this text down here that doesn't look great on iOS 26. So what we need to do is we need to use the hashtag available attribute to filter stuff that is available on iOS 26 or on iOS 18. So let's start with the add button maybe. So oh yeah, and so what I want to achieve is this nice animation. And to see what we need to do, let's go to nil coalescing, because Natalia has written a really nice article about this. So here we go. So in order to achieve this animation, what we need to do is and we can see it here. So you can see that the sheet morphs out of the button, or the button morphs into the sheet, right? So that is the effect that we want to achieve here. And in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to use the matchedTransitionSource on a toolbar item, and we need to use the navigation transition .zoom effect on the view that we want to present. So first of all, we need to define a namespace. So I'm going to copy this because I'm a lazy person, but the namespace we can implement ourselves. So namespace private var transition. So let's go to the very top of our screen and go where we have all our add environment things. So namespace private var transition. And now we can go back. Well, we can actually use our fancy navigation thing here, back to the adding thing. And now I want to make sure that we morph out of this toolbar item into this namespace here. And it's probably a good idea to use a meaningful ID. So let's say, so it's the source present add artifact. Yeah, why not? Okay, so that's the first step. Now the second step is to use the navigation transition and apply this on our target view. And we need to use the same identifier here. Let's build and then run this. Okay, so I'm mildly skeptical, because when it says it's building 6 out of 21, that's usually an indicator of the compiler complaining that it can't resolve this in reasonable time. So, is anybody else running into can't compile this in reasonable time? Oh, build fail. Look at that. We can't type check this in reasonable time. All right, so let's see how we can fix that. Who is the culprit? Let's uncomment this. That doesn't seem to be the culprit. Is it this one? Oh, it's not? Oh, it is. All right. So, fun. All right, guys, if anyone has a smart idea how to resolve this, let me know in the live chat. I'll try to figure it out. So let's, okay, the interesting thing is it can't even navigate there. Why is that? So let's try one thing, and let's tell it we can compile for iOS 26. That is really not what I want, but if this unblocks us, why not? Okay, so let's take a look. Let's run this. And let's go into this view, press the plus button, and this looks a lot better. As you can see, it morphs out of this bottom bar, and this looks a lot better. Okay. Cool. So I think what I want to do is I'll want to group the filter button and this filter area thing here on the left-hand side. And in order to do that, I'll move this chat button to the top right corner. So let's go to semantic Q&A, and then we'll have top bar trailing. And we will use the same pattern here. Let's copy and paste for simplicity's sake. So the interesting thing that I noticed is you can apply the match transition source to a button and it also seems to work, but the right thing to do is to apply it to a toolbar item. Present semantic QA. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so our plus button still works. Our chat button also works, and look at that. What a fancy animation we've got when we pull this down. Zip. Nice. All right, so we should probably also add toolbar buttons here, but that's something that we'll do later. Okay, so filtering still works, but this kind of like looks not great. So let's try to fix this. Let's go to the filtering. And let's see what we can do here. So let's take a look at what they did in the video. So here it says this is a toolbar item and they created this filter picker. And yeah, maybe let's try that first. I'm not sure if this approach works, but let's give it a try. So, right. So this is the first time when we will probably have to do something that is specific for iOS 26, right? So what we will do is so we will use the add, I always say add available, but it's really tag available. And we want code to execute when we are on iOS 26, and we want other code to execute when we are on operating systems below. Good. So let's take the entire thing and just let's make a copy. Okay. Nice. So let's try and put these into a H stack, just like it suggests. And then let's see how it looks. All right. Okay, so this is actually not too bad, except for that we now have everything in one block. So now things get a little bit complicated. And the interesting thing is, so if we look at the order of things here, you will see that first in the code, we configure the toolbar for the plus button, and then we add this other toolbar item here, which is for filtering. So it seems to do things from right to left. And the interesting question is, what happens if we are on a left to right device, right? So this is also something that we should probably take a look at one time. So we somehow need to place a spacer there, and you can see that there is this toolbar spacer view, and let's try to add this. So I assume, because the toolbar spacer needs to appear between the filter button and the plus button, we should probably place it here. Toolbar spacer, sizing, let's try fixed, and then I want it to be in the bottom bar. Let's run again. Okay. This didn't work. Let's try flexible. Well, oh, that's interesting. So it seems like it does place it to the left. All right, so let's put it here, I guess. Is this the right place? Yeah. And this is where I think my idea of grouping both the toolbar items and the sheets in a logical way maybe is not such a great idea. All right, so here we go. Oops. Wow. Okay, so this works. This works. Yeah, this is a little janky. Also, let me quickly check. So I don't know. Oh, right. So, all right. So I wanted to show you how this looks in the Mail app, but yeah, we can see it here as well. I wonder if there is a better view of this. I don't think so. So what I wanted to show you is So it's really a little bit difficult. Okay, so I need to pause it and then move my button here. Too late. Okay. So what they do is they display the filter down here, but they also use this area below the title of the screen to display additional information. And it's really hard to see at the moment because we've got this overlay here. Turn the captions off. Maybe. Yep, here is a good view. So unread just now, and looking at our code, I think, you know, this information should go, and this looks rubbish as well. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, so let's first try to move the status stuff into this other area. And I think there is a toolbar item for that as well. So dot large subtitle. Okay, so we can move this up there. And then remove this, outdent it, and then let's take a look at how this looks. Hello. Hello. What is happening? This is mildly concerning. Let's try this again. Okay. What? I can't click on anything. This is really a little bit funny. I mean, the good thing is, so far, with beta 5 and the latest beta of macOS Tahoe, this machine hasn't crashed yet. I mean, am I? Yes, I am on the right screen. And let's double check that it does something. Let's go into Safari. Okay, it seems like clicks are getting through, so maybe this is the problem. That SwiftUI always has surprises for you, doesn't it? Okay. So for some reason or the other, this seems to be the issue. Maybe our status bar message doesn't work. But I wouldn't know. This is so weird. This is really weird. Okay, so what we can do is put it down here. No, I mean, at least it's consistent, right? That is really wild. Oh, let's put a button here. Button. Let's take a start. Yeah, that's fine. Oh no. So this is what I wanted. Okay, so we are back in the I can't compile this in reasonable time territory. So this is really a little bit funny, to be honest. Okay, so what I will do now is I will move stuff around, and I will, move all the toolbar stuff into toolbars and see if this works. Because quite honestly, I think putting the toolbars all over the place, that is apparently confusing the compiler a little bit. So, yeah, let's put the toolbar stuff here. And then let's do this if hashtag available iOS, do this, otherwise do this. Okay, so first I'm going to get this. So this is our add button. And then we can have all our sheets here. So take all of this and move it up here. We'll remove this entire filtering toolbar. And then we'll move this stuff to the toolbar as well. Okay, does it compile? Well, 6 out of 21, it does not look good. Let's move more stuff up there. Here's another sheet. Let's take that sheet as well. Yep, build failed. This probably should go here as well. Oh, yes. And for the time being, we will use an empty view for iOS below 26. It's awfully quiet on the chat. So while we're waiting for the compiler, why don't you just say hi? Say hi and say your name. I'll put you on for a moment. So, so you can see what people are typing. And we are still in, we can't resolve this in reasonable time. Okay, so you know what? I'll comment this part here. This is not looking good. But failed. Not in reasonable time. Maybe it actually expects us to put a toolbar item there. So what I'm going to do is I will place this toolbar thing down here, the plus button. Top right, yes. Hey, Evelyn. Ah, look at that. All right. We will get there. So I know it works. I've done it before. We'll just, it's just a little bit of work. We'll get there. Okay, so let's run it, and then we will see how we will need to rearrange all our buttons here. Okay, so, and the clicking also works. Nice. So we've got our chat bubble up here, and it even animates. We've got our plus button down there, but we want it in the other corner. This looks good. This works fine. So it seems like we need to change the order of the plus button. So let's take the plus button, and apparently I don't know, maybe I was wrong. So we'll put this here. So this should hopefully put the plus button on the right side. Oh, I realize it's the other way around, on the right side. Right? Because from your side, it's there. Yeah, here we go. Nice. So, and we've got this nice area here. So let's see if we can now make this placement with the large button work. And if we don't, I have an idea how we can convince the compiler to. SwiftUI never ceases to amaze me. All right, so here we have our status message, and we need to fix this a little bit because it's 2 lines instead of 1 line, and it's centered instead of being left aligned. So to fix this, I'm going to rip this piece into 2 parts. So we want we want 2 different view builders. So add view builder var freshness indicator. And that is some view. And we want another one which we'll call the unread status message. Okay, so now we will take this part here and move it into the freshness indicator. And then we will take the unread status and put it here. So now, if we are on iOS 26, we want these to be in a H stack. So if hashtag available iOS 26, we want a H stack. Spacer needs to go on the trailing edge. And then if it is a if we are on a different iOS version, we will use a H stack like we did before. What's this? Yeah, so oh, yeah, this is wrong. So freshness indicator and then unread status message. Yeah, because this would have been a loop. Okay, nice. Let's give it a try. Nice. So this is looking good. Now let's take a look at this. Here we are. So I only want to display this if it is actually filtered, right? So because it doesn't really make sense. We're not filtering now, so why should we display the filter stuff? Let's just hide that. If is filtered, we will show this part here. Okay, not too bad. But we need to make sure, so first of all, this shouldn't be center aligned, but leading. All right, I think it's time. I think it's time for our good old friend border, and we'll use a red border. Oh, come on. We use a red border here and a green border here. And I don't know, can we? I'm scared. Let's not use a preview. Why is this? Is the spacing the problem? So, what is the problem here? Maybe. So we've got a text and a button, and I guess the button has a different inset. So let's move the button up and then make the B stack be the child. And this looks a lot better already. Also, it seems like we've at least fixed this problem that the pill clipped the text. Okay, so I think we can remove the border. And then what I also want to achieve is, you can see that we've got this little chevron pointing down. So I also want to add this to indicate that this is a button. So we'll need to wrap this in a H stack. And then image, system name, chevron, it's probably chevron down, chevron.up. See, it's chevron.down. There we go. And then this entire thing should have a foreground color of .accent. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is not too bad, but it's also still missing our match transition stuff. So let's put this on our button here. So on our toolbar item, I should say. So there is a cool shortcut, but I always forget how to open it. No. And I think it's called something like balance delimiters. There you go. So it's control right bracket, and it selects the entire block. And that's really useful for figuring out where does the block end. So what I wanted was to add a match transition source on this button and present filters, well, filter dialog. Okay. And then on the filter sheet, we need the navigation transition dot zoom source is, didn't I copy that? Here's our source ID in transition. That's our namespace. So hopefully this should give us this sweet transition that we're looking after. Boom, here we go, nice. Okay. Good. So now let's go back and dial back our compilation target to iOS 18 and see if all our refactorings made it easier for the compiler to understand what we were trying to do. Oh, and I just noticed that on the stream you can see me zooming in. That is really good. That is good to know, because now you can see that, you know, if I want to inspect something more closely, you can see it, right? So for example, if I go in and do that, apparently that is visible on the stream. Good to know. Okay. Just double checking. Yep, it works. Nice, really nice. Let's now try to run this on an older device. And I'll probably have to bring back a lot of the code because I ripped it out. So most of the buttons are probably gone. So let's see. Yep, we only have the plus button. Right, let's go back. Okay, so we can just, let's take everything and then I'll rip out the iOS 26 specific parts. Good. So this doesn't work because it's only available on iOS 26. This thing here, we need to get back from version control, and that doesn't work either, and that also doesn't work. And we can't use this, and we can't use this. And now let me just quickly go into version control and get back how our filter button looked like. So we are, and we need the status bar as well. Here we go. So I think this is the entire filtered thing here. Oh, what is this? Okay, so apparently we're missing, or we do have too many. Okay, seems like that might be missing. Yep. Can you imagine using a language where the structure of your program is determined by the indentation level? I think I would, I would go mad. Okay, nice. All right. And here we also see something that we need to take care of, right? So you can see that this animation is not what we wanted. This animation also is not what we wanted. And that animation either is not what we wanted. So what we need to do is we need to go down where our sheets are. Where are they? Here we go. So now we'll have to make sure that we only use a navigation transition on the sheets if we are on iOS 26. So where is my code completion when I need it? So, and what we'll do is let add artifact dialog equals, and then we'll do this, and otherwise we'll do that, right? And this is what we need to do for all the dialogues. So I should probably be smart and do this, and then at least we can copy and paste, right? Oh no, yeah, we need to be careful because we need to use the correct identifiers. Okay. Then we have this sheet. And this can go here. And this can go here, and we can delete that, and this can go away, and then let's take that, put it here, let dialog equals edit artifact dialog blah blah. Yep, that's correct. Interesting. So seems like we might have forgotten this. Ooh. Oh, okay. This is a different thing. So this sheet is not presented from a toolbar button, but from a different one. I'll show you. So if we go here and use the More button, then we'll be able to call this thing here. So, oops. Oh yeah, so this is correct. So filter, open the filter dialog, open the add artifact dialog, and open the chat dialog. Nice. So this works. Now let's run it on the iOS 26 simulator. Yep, so the filter comes out of there, the plus button comes out of there, our chat morphs out of here, and what about these? Yep, this is looking exactly like I was expecting it to look like. Nice. So, now if we go and take a look at all of the code that, and we can probably go into the repository view. What? Okay. So there is a bunch of stuff that we did, and most of that is all of those if available checks. Right, I moved stuff around, okay, but we have some, and this is not a good view. Let me go here. So we've got all of these. And it's just adding a lot of noise to our code. And we'll probably have to do this in a bunch of other places as well. Also, I kind of... Are these all of them? Yeah, there's more. Are they different? So this has 5 matches, and this has 2 matches. Oh, okay, so because I set this. Okay, better. 5 matches. Yeah, so the question is, can we make this better? Oh, and this, I mean, it's not even complete, right? So this check here is for, is it? I think it's correct, isn't it? Let's double check. So all of this is the toolbar. And we've got this part in the toolbar that is for iOS 26, this part in the toolbar that's for previous versions. So that is fine. Yeah, and we've got this, you know, this entire block that we had to duplicate. So let's see if we can make this better. In a previous version or the previous issue of the newsletter, I wrote about this Backports library. So let's have a look at that. SwiftUI Backports, and what it addresses is exactly this pattern. So exactly this pattern that we used here. We have so many if hashtag available, iOS 26, blah, 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 do this, otherwise do that. And what this library promises is, instead of doing this, we can just write .backport. So sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? Let's give it a try. So I'm going to add this to the project. Let's go to this here. And add it to the main project. Then we need to import this. Import backport, SwiftUI backports. And now we can go here and see how we can make this easier. So let's start with yeah, let's start here. So backport. Does it work? Yeah, I think so. And then we can do this here as well, .backport. So this is our bubble. This is our add button. This is something else. This is our filter stuff. And this is our large subtitle. So this stuff here, that is iOS 26 anyway, so we'll have to keep it in there, but, well, I know. My good man. So let's see if we can do it this way. So we'll take the filter stuff up here. Here is the iOS 26 part. Here is the else part. Put this in there. So that is just the filtering stuff. And then this stuff here can stay the same. For both versions. Come on, you can do it. No? It failed. Okay, so I think for what I want to show, let's roll this back and then let's make it slightly easier. Okay. Let's go back to the toolbar. Okay. So I will move the chat bubble up there, and then we don't need it down here anymore. And now let's try to use Backport. Come on, I believe in you. No? You don't believe in me? We do have a backport here, so it should work. All right, let's see. So let's just handle the filtering first of all. So here we've got the filtering stuff. Let's take this out. Okay, so, and this again needs to be filtered. I know it looks complicated, but hopefully it'll make sense. So this stuff is for the status message in iOS 26. This stuff is for the filtered stuff in iOS 26. And this stuff should then be for filtering when we are not in iOS 26. So this needs to go. And now we've got the plus button. Okay, so technically, this should be correct. But my good old friend, the compiler, seems to have a different opinion. Mate, why are you so stubborn? Yeah. Okay, so let's try to work our way back. Let's uncomment all of this. And see if just this works. Because if this doesn't work, then we've got a compile error somewhere else. So it seems that it is not happy. Yep. So if I comment out this part here, oh, it's the same problem. Really? But where is the problem? I mean, it did compile before. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay. So if we remove that, I mean, does it work now? No. Really? All right. Hey, Michaela. Good to see you. So .backport is, oh no, it's compiling. No, it's not. .backport is this library here. And I'm trying to use, so we can, yeah, it failed again. Okay, so we're trying to use matchedTransitionSource in order to avoid having to write all those add available checks. So what we're going to do is let's, start somewhere else. So I'm going to undo a whole bunch of stuff. And make sure, okay, so we can compile again, nice. And let's import backport, SwiftUI backports again. So just to make sure that the compile problems don't arise from just importing it, no, so it's fine. Okay, so let's go to a place that's hopefully a little bit easier to handle, and let's do this. So, and it might be more obvious that Backport can help us. So this is the code that we had to write to make it work on iOS 26 and previous versions. So now let's see how Backport can help us to make this easier. .backport .zoom, and now we need our source ID. And the transition thing, right? So if this works, we've saved ourselves a lot of typing. And it does work. So this is the add presenting dialog. So this one here. So it works nicely. So now let's go and run this on the previous version. Okay, so here we go. Here we are on the previous simulator. And as you will notice, we have this really weird transition now. Because, as great this idea of using the Backport library is, it has a small problem here. And that is that it says, well, you know what, this navigation transition view modifier, that is available on iOS 18, so we're going to backport that. But this is not what we want in our case. We want to use the transition when we are on iOS 26, but not when we are on previous versions. But what we can do is implement our own backport thing and fix this. So I'm just blatantly going to copy this thing here, and then we'll go into our own SwiftUI extensions package, and then let's paste this. And I should probably write something like inspire inspired by SwiftUI backports by Superwall. And we need to import SwiftUI. Nice. So now we need a extension so we can register our view modifier. And what we want to do is so we want this one here, right? So I also didn't like that they didn't have a navigation transition thing, right? So we had to use the zoom view modifier. So let's do it this way. And let's also call it slightly differently. And then SwiftUI extensions. Okay. So now let's go into, hello, can we go into the Swift source code, please? Please. Oh, we're compiling. Okay, let's give the compiler a moment. And go here. So here we are. Let's copy the method signature. Go into our backports implementation. And now we can go over here. Copy this entire thing here. Go back here. Uncomment this. And then instead of dialog, we'll use content. And then we can just pass a style, right? Yep. And this needs to be a view builder. Okay, so only available in iOS 18 or newer. That is completely fine. And we'll just say this is only available from 18 on. Okay, so now if we compile this, it will use our backport. Fingers crossed that this will actually compile. Oh man, SwiftUI. Nope, there's a problem. What is it? Ah, that dreaded unreasonable time. I don't know. I don't know. My mate. So what's the problem here? It probably recognizes this. Let me see. Um, hmm. I mean, it's I have no idea why the compiler is not able to compile this in reasonable time. Oh, yeah. Good point, Dan. Thanks for spotting this. It's the naming. I should have renamed this here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thanks, mate. You get yourself some hearts. All right, and now we were able to compile. And this should be able to run fine now. So if this works correctly, then when I press on the plus button, we should get the regular transition where it slides in from the bottom. And here we go. So this works. Now let's run this on a 26 simulator and see if it still works. And here we want it to morph out of the plus button instead of just sliding in from the bottom. So if this works, then we've succeeded. Doo-doo! Nice. Good. So there is one last thing that I want to show you, which I really like, and that is a little trick that I learned from Majid. So he has a bunch of articles where he explains how to classify all sorts of views, classifying custom SwiftUI views groups, custom SwiftUI views, toolbars, tabs. And in this article here, Classifying Toolbars, he proposes to use a specific style because, and this is something that we still have to do, but I'm not going to do now because it's late. So if we go back into this screen here, let's use this one. You'll see that we've got done and add, and that is because we're using buttons here, and those buttons have a text on them, which is right for iOS 18 and below, but it's not the right way to do it on iOS 26, where we should use an X button, an X icon, or a check icon. And one way to do this is to just define a new label style and then apply that label style when you define your buttons, right? So here you can see that we apply the .toolbar label style, which is a really fantastic idea to do it. And then the cool thing that Majid proposes is, well, as soon as you compile for iOS 26, and this is your minimum deployment target, you no longer need this, and you don't want to carry around old cruft in your source code, so you can just like remove those kind of things. So let's do this as well, and I'm going to copy this add available attribute here, and we're going to use it on our backport thing here. And we'll probably, it's best used here. So introduced in 18, it's obsoleted in 26. And we can add a message here. Since you are compiling for iOS 26, you can remove this line now. Happy shipping. So if we compile this now, nothing will happen, right? No warning, no whatsoever, because our minimum deployment target is iOS 18. So build succeeded. But if I go ahead and change the deployment target of my app to 26 and compile that, I will get a compiler error. And hopefully it will not be, I can't resolve this in reasonable time. So my backport is unavailable in iOS, well, in iOS. Since you are compiling for iOS 26, you can remove this line now, happy shipping, and boom, you can remove it. And now we're no longer using our backport thing, but we're calling the API directly. And we could even remove the entire class, the entire backport thing. So we were on the plus button, right? So it's still working as expected. All right, and this is one way to, yeah, it's no longer available. Let's dial back the compile, the deployment target to 18, and then this should be fine again. All right, and these are a couple of strategies that you can use in order to make sure that your code looks, well, that your UI looks great on iOS 27 and below, and how you can do that in code and how you can do it more easily in code. So what we probably want to do is to add other backported things as well. And as you can see, it's relatively straightforward. I'm not going to bother with fixing the toolbars now, because that seems to be a thing where I might need to do this on a larger screen, because it's really, really difficult to read here. So, this entire thing here can be simplified, but I think it takes some convincing the compiler. All right. With that, yeah, I had a bunch of if statements in my code before. And also, one other way to do this is to use conditional view modifiers. So something like this. So, and the interesting thing here is the general consensus is that using conditional view modifiers is a bad idea. But I would say that in this case, it works fine because the version of the operating system doesn't just change under the hood while your application is running. So the condition will never change. And that is why I think it is okay to use an approach like that. But again, it adds a lot of noise to your application. There are use cases when this is the way to go. But in our case, I think using the backport pattern is a lot cleaner and makes a lot more sense. Cool. So with that, let me say thanks for tuning in. And I think there'll be another live stream next week. I'll think about what we can do next time. Also, you might have noticed if you've joined the previous versions of the live stream that I made one change here. Instead of using the code that I kept on building on from stream to stream, I used code that had progressed a lot more. So this is the actual version of the application that I've been working on. And going forward, my plan is to always take the live code and work on the live code, because this is not meant to be a tutorial. It's meant to be me working on the app and moving it forward, and you basically watching on and seeing my struggles and feeling some consolence that if you're struggling, everybody else is struggling as well. So thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day wherever you tuned in from, and I will see you in the next one.